Okay, I love introducing Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson because there are so many things to say about him. It's kind of like I have to, well, last time I introduced him, I kind of had a whole book because I just had to tell you about all the amazing things that he does. But if just go look at his website, give yourself a few days because you can just get lost in it. It's so wonderful. But I'll tell you a little spoiler here. When you first get to his website, the first thing you see, if you ask me what I came to do in this world, I, an artist, will answer you. I am here to live out loud. Yeah, we know that about you. By Emile Zola. So let me just put a few things, Reverend Ray things out there. The Japanese concept of Kaizen was a motivating force before he even learned of the idea. And Kaizen, if I'm saying it the right way, to consistently be in a state of honing, evolving, and improving oneself. Ray has a library of life stories. He's been an American Sign Language interpreter and dancer. He's worked for Center for Spiritual Living in many roles. He's a contributor, has been a contributor to Science of Mind magazine. His mission is to live, move, and be an active member of society who serves to educate, elucidate, emancipate, awaken, and empower people and communities. Active stands for authentic, compassionate, transparent, inspired, vibrant, and empowered. He is an amazing multi-dimensional artist, putting all of these things together and creating beautiful works just every time he looks at you. Please welcome with me Reverend Raymont Anderson. Yay!
Thank you so very much, Stephanie, and my beloved Celebration Center family. Breathe for a second. Let's settle in, because as you know, I'm pretty good at rocking the boat. And today, we're going to rock the boat. Oh, but before we get there, slight public announcement. Since I am not there in person today, I would like each of you to hug one another at some point before you leave the center and know that the hug is from me. Breathe. So today we are continuing the theme of the month, which is to glow up. And today we're specifically talking about this idea of inner illumination. And here's where, okay, here we go. I'm gonna rock the boat right now. I want us to begin with this invitation of shifting both the language and the concept of inner, right? Like we say, God is within, spirit is within, the divine within, the light within. Even, sorry folks, even what you just turned to your neighbor and said, I see God in you, I see good in you. I want us to tweak the language and the concept. God being all there is. You know what? Hold on a sec. Let's do this. I want you to pause for a second and in your mind's eye, see a box. And I want it to be a box that has a lid of some sort. It could be a jewelry box, a gift box, a treasure chest, something where the box can be opened and closed. And when you have that firmly in mind, I then want to ask the question, and let's suppose we were having a conversation in coffee or tea or something. And I said, hey, Stephanie, what's in your box? I almost sound like that commercial. What's in your wallet? If I was to say, Joey, got a question for you. In your mind's eye, what's in your box? Jen, what's in your box? Melinda, I was going to say it in French, but we'll do that later. What's in your box? Right? So we're right there, right? What's in the box? Now, pause and ask yourself, in my mind's eye, what's the difference between the inside and the outside of the box? In your mind, mind being absolute, there is no difference between inside and outside. We refer to the inside and outside of God and this and that as it relates to this relative experience called life. If I'm inside the kitchen, then there has to be an outside the kitchen. If the almonds are in the refrigerator, then there has to be an outside of the refrigerator. We speak of it in terms of how things relate to one another. But if we're going to talk about God and God being all there is, then God isn't just in us. The light isn't just in us. So my invitation, and you can keep saying for linguistic convenience, but start to really sink into this. So what if I turned to my neighbor and said, I see God as you. I see good as you. Or even, I see you as God. I see you as good. Breathe. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because in order for us to really step into science of mind and spirit as an applied, relevant, and applicable spiritual teaching and practice, sometimes we get lost in the lingo. We get lost in the duality and the this and the that. And, even when we vilify the darkness, sometimes, now, once again, linguistic convenience, but when we think of yin yang, we need both the light and the darkness. You've heard me say this before when referencing drawing. You have to have shading. Shading is darkness. That's how you create depth and 3 dimensions within the drawing or the painting. So it's, how do I balance light and darkness? How do I reconcile that this body is God? There is no separation from this body, that which is the divine. Both are God, and there's only a both in terms of how I am referencing it. God is all there is. So what happens when we start to shift our languaging around? And sometimes, instead of using the poetic linguistic convenience, what if we directly say what we mean? So rather than light overcomes darkness, what if we directly said love overcomes hate? Equity overcomes racism and homophobia, transphobia. Belonging overcomes separation and isolation. See, because if I just say light overcomes darkness, we have a concept of it, but how do I apply that? Versus, equity, inclusion, belonging. See, now it changes the energy. So breathe for a moment. For those of you who know me, you know that I refer to science of mind and spirit as Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0. And Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 gives us the means to put the power of our illumination to use in dynamic and life-affirming ways, ways that give others the opportunity to see and feel the truth as it shows up as us. It also then gives them the freedom to access their illumination as well. Because when we get into this space of, once again, the theme of the month, when we glow up and show up as the body of love, justice, equity, and liberation, what happens is we drive out the lies with truth. We drive out hate with understanding, violence with compassion, ignorance with wisdom. How we live becomes the gospel that we share. So rather than there being, the gospel of Mark, Luke, and John, I want to know, what is the gospel of Ivor? What is the gospel of Melinda? What is the gospel of Joey? What is the gospel of Jay? What is the gospel of? That's what I want to know. Right? Yeah, I can read the stuff written from this was written back in the day when, yeah, that's fine. That's all well and good. That's all well and good. Right? Shakespeare, dost thou not say? That's all well and good. But I want to know today, what is the amen? Today, what is the gospel that is written? Today, what are the lights that are shining? Today, what are the songs being sung? Today, what are the poems being written and expressed today? By us, because we are the ones who are here shifting and changing. So how we live is the gospel that we are sharing. Our lives are the sacred texts that we are offering the world to read. And because God is all there is, we already have everything that we need right now to create a world that works for all. We have all of the minerals and all of the wisdom and all of the creativity and all of the intelligence and all of the resources and all of the everything. The thing that's not creating it right now is we are not making use of it. Now, normally I would be picking on Lynn, and sorry, Joey, but since you are the musician for the day, this means I'm going to pick on you. So sorry. Okay, so I hope they didn't warn you. Oh, so Joey, guitar. Now, without strumming a chord or anything and without opening Joey's mouth, is there music? Yes. The potential for songs, the potential for rhythms, they all exist. But the moment that Joey sits down and says, this is what will be played, then all of creation collapses into this one song that is broken up into this one chord, this one note, this one movement of my thumb, this one movement of my ring finger, this one note, this one breath. And yet, if I were to ask, which you've all heard me say before as well, at what point do we run out of music? Right? Like, is Joey ever going to wake up one morning and wait, oh, wait, I can talk, but I can't. Oh, you know what? We've already hit the limit. There's no more music. We've run out. No. But why? Because music is a principle, an infinite principle, just like math. No amount of 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus. I've run out of ones. We cannot run out of God. So we already have everything that we need to create a world that works for all. The question is, are we ready to gather and make it so? Are we ready to have those conversations? Now, as Stephanie so magnificently introduced, Diwali or Diwali, depends on how you want to say it. We have a variety of ways we can say it. The concept is the Hindu festival of lights. And we know that, in case you didn't know, it begins tomorrow. So it runs from October to November. But this season is the season of lights and what it does regarding the darkness. So whether it's Halloween, Samhain, or whether it's Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's and Kwanzaa, and it's the season of lights. And this is our reminder. This is our reminder to be in a place of awakened awareness. Because this season, Diwali, represents or symbolizes victory over Dharma or Adharma. Light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance. Now, regarding this concept of ignorance, because one of the things we often do, once again, getting caught up in the words. According to Lama Surya Das, enlightenment is not about becoming divine. Instead, enlightenment is about becoming more fully human. It is the end of ignorance. Note, ignorance meaning what? Ignorance meaning a lack of comprehension, a lack of experience, Ignorance can also represent innocence, right? It can represent foolishness and stupidity. And if we were to think of it in terms of, someone is studying martial arts, ignorance is the moment that one receives the white belt. Now, we may not think of it as ignorance, but it is, because it represents this person is innocent. This person lacks the experience of karate or kung fu or aikido. That's why I'm in the class. I want to learn how to wax on, wax off. And then as they progress, the concept is the belt gets soiled. It becomes darker over time to represent experience. And then at one point, it becomes a black belt to represent a certain level of mastery. But in the Japanese arts, the more the master wears the black belt then begins to fade and become gray and become white again. It is the full circle of. That's what enlightenment is. That's why enlightenment is not something we need to be searching for, or enlightenment exists right now. Even within the Buddhist scriptures and sutras and whatnot, many of them reference the fact that when Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was awakened and became the Buddha, the awakened one, or the awakening one, because awakening is ever and ever and ever. It's not just a one-time deal. That at that moment, all awakened as well. We just don't know it. And if we don't know it, how do we make use of it? Just like back in 1829, they could have had solar panels if they knew. They could have had smartphones if they. Orville and Wilbur could have already had a plane 100 years before Orville and Wilbur if they had, right? There's a certain level of awareness, and the resources were already there. So rather than trying to become something we're not, because we think I have to become enlightened, I must become the light, no, you're already it. You're already it. Light in your mind shows up as truth. Light in your heart shows up as knowledge. Light in your soul shows up as wisdom. Light in your life shows up as God, according to Machona de Hualo. And we could even tweak that. Light as your mind is truth. Light as your heart is knowledge. Light as your soul is wisdom. Light as your life is God. Breathe. And I got to nerd out a moment, so I got to go to Star Wars for a second. Anyone who knows Star Wars, you know that there's the Jedi. They represent what side of the Force? The light side of the Force. And then you have the Sith that represent you say what now? The dark side of the Force. But did you know that there is another in the middle? There's a gray Jedi that balances the light and the darkness. Did you know that? It's the balancing. So rather than either or, the gray Jedi do both and. And the code of the gray Jedi says, there is no dark side nor a light side. There is only the Force. I will do what I must to keep the balance. There is no good without evil, but evil must not be allowed to flourish. There is passion, yet peace. There is serenity, yet emotion. There is chaos, yet order. It's about balance. How do we balance this awareness? How do we balance this understanding? How do we balance this embodiment? Dr. Holmes makes it very clear that the spirit, and I'm going to use his language, that the spirit is the inner light that dwells within us all. Our inner illumination comes from the source of the divine itself. We can all talk to, once again, I'm using his language. We can all talk to God and access the light within, Our individual glow up is inspired, designed, and guided by the truth that resides in us all. There is no glow up without the original glow of the presence of the divine. So you got that. Reverend Ray remix. What if you made it clear to yourself that the inner light that dwells within all of us that Dr. Holmes speaks of is your realization that spirit is you and you are it? It is that realization that brings illumination, enlightening us all. Knowing that we are the totality which comes both from the source and is the divine itself. And so rather than asking, can we talk to God? Ask this instead. When are we aware that talking to other people is talking to God? When Stephanie introduces Joey, it's God introducing God. When everyone turns to one another, it's God turning to God as neighbor and saying, I see what I am as you. I see good that I am, the good that you are. As Emma Curtis Hopkins said, my good is my God. My God is my good. They are one and the same. So ask this, am I aware of the fact that every time I communicate, it is God? All that we are is the very presence itself. So once again, from Matashona de Wallo, see the light, find the light, embrace the light, be the light. See it, find it, embrace it, be it. Most importantly, be it. Be it. If I were to ask, what does it look like for Jen to be Jen? And could Jen, what would Jen have to do to be Joey? You can't. Jen can only be Jen. Joey can only be Joey. Ivor can only be Ivor. Ray can only be Ray. It's what we are. And there's no place within us where we find, let me look inside. Ray, open your mouth and say, ah. There you is. I see you right there. You right beside your left lung, slightly beside. I see you. That's where Ray, no. Ray is all of this. And even if there was a different name, it would still be all of this. So be the light. Be that which God already is. You know, we use the concept of light, which symbolizes all kinds of things. Light symbolizing truth, light symbolizing wisdom, enlightenment, life, divinity, hope, goodness, all kinds of things. And it's across all kinds of religions, right? Isn't that what Joey opened with at the beginning before the book of love? No matter where, the church, the synagogue, the mosque, the wherever, this concept of is beyond barriers, beyond walls, beyond labels. So what does it mean for me to be truth, to be wisdom, to be enlightenment? Rather than what must I do to do enlightenment? How do I do life? Well, first you get a book and you read all 7 chapters, and then this is also why Yeshua, Jesus, he didn't say do perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. He said be it. You can't be something that you're not already. Be the musician that you are. Be the poet that you are. Be the creator that you are. Be that which you are as a divine expression. Be it. There's nothing, see, when we are being, the doing happens naturally. If I am going to be a master of martial arts, then it shows up in my, in my actions. Just like there's an old samurai maxim that says the person who has attained mastery of any single art will reveal that mastery in everything. This is why samurai they had to learn at least 3 different art forms before learning the sword. So ikebana, flower arranging, haiku, poetry, tea ceremony. Learn the why? Because as you master flower arranging, it affects your mastery of the sword. As you learn haiku, it affects your mastery of the sword. As we learn what it means to be engaged in this teaching and we be, remember Dr. Holmes said, I am not religious science, you are. Our ministers, our practitioners, our laity. I am simply someone who put this thing together, but you are it. How are we being what that is? How are we showing up as that which it is? Dr. Holmes said, there is a power and presence in the universe which responds to us so completely, so perfectly, that we shall be amazed when we realize how completely and how perfectly. But it can only operate for us by operating through us, as us. So therein lies our invitation. Are we willing to be open at the top and open at the bottom, to be the very divine presence, knowing that light is simply what we are, from the top of our head to the soles of our feet, from the surface of our skin, through every muscle fiber, every tendon, through the bone, down to the atoms, molecules, quantum particles, and waves. We are light made flesh, which means we are love made flesh. We are God in human form. Be it and shine. And so it is.